Hallo, meine Damen und Herren. Willkommen. Also was wir heute hier diskutieren, ist Kapitel 3 von Deutsch Aktuell 2. So if you'll turn with me in your textbook, either to page 88 or 73, 88 oder 73, depending on your edition. So for this particular section, Lektion A, there are no differences noted between 5th and 6th or 7th edition. So here we go. Wohin fährst du gern? An den Strand? Nein, woanders hin. Aufs Land, auf einen Bauernhof, ans Meer. So just notice, I've told you this many times before, prepositions are tricky things. So when I'm going to the beach, it's an den Strand. But if I'm going to the country, it's auf das Land or aufs Land. To the ocean is ans Meer. And I'm sure you've noticed other things, like when you're going to Germany, it's nach Deutschland. Or if you're going to Switzerland, it's in die Schweiz. So the to preposition can change. But so we basically memorize these phrases of where it's used. Then next, was möchtest du besichtigen? Magst du da Ferien? So in English, we say we're taking a vacation. In German, you say you're making a vacation. Magst du da Ferien? Nein, da ist so viel Betrieb. Kannst du mir etwas anderes vorschlagen? Ja, ein Hotel oder eine Pension. Ist da noch etwas frei? So that F-R-E-I, frei, is free, but not free as in it costs nothing. Free as in, is it available? So free, it costs nothing, is kostenlos. Ist da noch etwas frei? Would there still be something available at this hotel or pension? Right, now let's talk about weather on either page 103 or 84. And so there's only one difference here, and it's just an updating of technology. So in the old edition, you have someone who is sending a fax, and in the new edition, you have someone sending an email. All right. Wie ist die Wettervorhersage für? In den Bergen gibt's Schnee und starke Winde. Im Schwarzwald gibt es Regenschauer. In Berlin wird es bewölkt und 20 Grad sein. Die Tageshöchsttemperatur an der Nordsee steigt auf 24 Grad. An der Ostsee ist es heiter. So that heiter is clear skies. It's like a bright sunny day. And the interesting thing about heiter is that it is often used too for someone's personality, someone who's just a bright sunny person, that they might be described as heiter. Then for travel plans. Sie sprechen über ihre Ferienreise und sehen sich Broschüren an. So to take a look at these brochures is sich ansehen, a reflexive verb. Wie wär's mit Hiddensee? Sende eine E-Mail dorthin. Man wird Ihnen erst einmal über die Insel Auskunft geben. And now turn to the big list at the end of the chapter, page 109 or 89. And when you get to that page, you will be happy to see that this chapter's big list is not so big. So let's look at this list. And there are only a couple of changes on this list as well. You have senden, means to send, pretty easy to figure out that verb, and Vorgänger, which means a predecessor. And that Vorgänger specifically ties into your chapter readings. All right. Ab und zu, die Alpen, die Altstadt, and German cities that were built in like the Middle Ages or in the Renaissance, they all had sort of a center of town that was built, and then the more modern city has kind of grown around that. So here we might call it downtown. In my city, we actually call it Old Town, that center of our city that the rest of it grew around. So here it is, Old Town, Altstadt. And then etwas anderes, a very useful phrase. Autobahn, Bauernhof, besichtigen. And then viel Betrieb sein, bewölkt, Blume, Blumeninsel, Broschüre, denn, derselbe, Dreiländereck, erst, and together. So erst can be first, like when we talked about the first book of Moses, Erste Mose, but also that little phrase, erst einmal, that goes together. And that means like, oh, but first let's do this. Erst einmal. So we're going to do this before we move on to something else. Erzählen, facts, Ferien. And again, Ferien machen. We're not going to take a vacation. We're going to make a vacation. Ferienreise, frei, gestern, Gewitter, grad, Grüß, or the plural, Grüße. So herzliche Grüße. So it's like warm greetings or hearty greetings. I'm sending you my kindest regards. Günstig, heiter, hinfahren. And if you look at the parentheses behind hinfahren, the first thing you see is fährt hin. And that just is to remind you that fahren is a stem changing verb. So it would be ich fahre with that A in it, but du fährst, A umlaut, and fährt, A umlaut. It changes for du and erst. So that first thing, fährt hin, is to remind you it's a stem changer. Then the next one says vorhin, and that is our simple past of an irregular verb. That's grammar we're covering in this chapter. And then ist hingefahren, that is your two-word past tense, also known as conversational past, that we learned in German 1 last year. And you remember that those verbs where someone is in motion, going somewhere, instead of taking haben as their helping verb, take sein. So there you have it, ist hingefahren. And then the next phrase is aufs Land fahren, Meer, Mittelalter, Nachbar, nennen, Pension, pro, Rathaus. So the Rathaus is city hall, and it comes from the fact that the word Rat means advice. So the house where you go for advice is your city hall, Rathaus. Regenschauer, Reisebüro, Schloss, Schnee, Segelboot, Segeln, Sehenswürdigkeit, sogar, stehen, and the phrase im Kontakt stehen, steigen. Now, steigen is to climb. So I can use that like if I'm climbing a ladder. But also in this chapter, we're talking about weather. So we're going to be talking about the temperature climbing to a certain degree. Steigen auf. And then the highest daytime temperature, Tageshöchsttemperatur, über, unglaublich, verbringen. And to spend time, we use verbringen. So that isn't the verb for spending money, but it is the verb for spending time. Vorgänger, Wettervorhersage, wie wär's? And that is a contraction. It's wie wär es. The apostrophe S is for an ES, so it's how about, how would it be, wie wär's? Wind, woanders, and ziehen. right.